Hi and welcome back to Pencils and Stories. I hope you like Disney movies because today we are gonna analyze the visuals in The Lion King. I'm talking, of course, about the 1994 Lion King. I know that the quote-unquote live action film has just been released, so I thought this was a good starting point for this series. The Lion King means a lot to me. It's also one of the best, I think, Disney movies there is. It's just so solid. The story structure is amazing. The visuals are amazing. The music is amazing. So the new version of The Lion King is coming out. Like, I don't want to say live action because the most of it's probably gonna be CG. But they have pretty big shoes to fill. I have a little trepidation. We'll see. We're gonna look specifically at visual symbols. That is a thing that I think I came up with myself. I'm not actually sure. There's probably also a better term for the thing, but this is what I call them. Like, a symbol is something that is kind of abstract, but we gave meaning to it. And it can be really simple things, like the color red can become a symbol. Like the color red is just that, it's the color red. But it gets meaning in certain kinds of contexts, and that's where it becomes kind of symbolic for stuff. Like red can be a symbol for danger, it can be a symbol for stop, it can be a symbol for love and passion. So the color red is really versatile, but the color red in and of itself doesn't have any other meaning than hi, I'm a red color. The same goes for, you can give a different meaning to everything you see in a story. The good thing about visual storytelling is that you can do that really visually without many words, or without words at all. And every single movie is filled with visual symbols and meaning, and they're usually very obvious in animated movies. They will use color, and they will use design, and they will use all kinds of visuals to tell the story in a more subconscious way as well. And that usually plays a lot on our emotions, and our brains kind of make sense of it even without us knowing it. It helps to tie certain scenes together, certain story points together. Yeah, you can give everything in your story a different kind of meaning if you set it up a certain way, and The Lion King is just filled with this stuff. So that's what I mean with a visual symbol. It is something that's kind of abstract on its own, but then you give it a meaning for the viewer to pick up on. So let's dive right in. So this is the 1994 Lion King movie, the original Lion King movie from Disney. It's directed by Rob Minkoff and Roger Allers. It has an amazing group of writers. It has an amazing voice cast. Only later in my life I realized that there are some pretty big names in there that I didn't even realize. And then it has amazing music by Hans Zimmer and Lebo M and Elton John. It's like, the soundtrack is amazing. I recently purchased the extended soundtrack, which basically has the entire movie. Like, you can listen to the entire movie, just the music, and it's amazing. There's a lot of repeating elements in The Lion King. And some have a more clear story function than others. Some you will definitely pick up on. Like, there's some very obvious ones. Like, for example, you have these drawings of Simba done by Rafiki. It basically shows you Simba growing up, but it also shows you what Simba means to the Pride Lands. It's basically told through the eyes of Rafiki. So you've got Simba, who's just recently have been kind of like blessed, I guess, by Rafiki. This is just right after he was born, like the left image. And then the right image is when Rafiki realizes that Simba's alive and he is the rightful king to the Pride Lands. And this is a heartbreaking moment where everybody thinks that Simba's dead, so he will not become king, and he perished instead. So it's a sad moment. And then obviously there's the Nala flip, which is what it's called by the directors. It's when Nala will be in a fight with somebody and she just flips her enemy over her head and pushes them to the ground. And she does the exact same thing when they're older. And it's in the beginning, it's used to teach Simba a little bit of humility. So it's a fun little throwback when they meet again and she does the same thing, and that's when he recognizes her. And eventually it even saves its life because Simba does a Nala flip at the end. He just flips Scar over his head, which defeats him. So that's fun. It's something that you immediately recognize, and those are fun storytelling elements, recurring storytelling elements that you can think of and reuse, to connect all kinds of story points together. And then there's also fun recurring things like Simba's roar, not being the big adult lion roar that he wants it to be. And then obviously later on, they save it to the end, like when he does his mighty Lion King roar. This, like, stuff like this is like not a recurring storytelling element, but it's so, like, this is visual storytelling. You can do this in movies and comics and illustration. It's so clear and simple, like, what this means. Like Simba's just had this really bad experience with the hyenas, and then his dad had to come and rescue him. But all that Simba wants is to be as cool and as brave as his father. And this image basically tells him, like, you're not ready. You're not ready to be king yet. Too, like, this ties into the main, like, story of Simba having to grow up and become king and learning what it means. There are some repeating elements in the story that are less obvious than others, at least I think so. The reason I think The Lion King is brilliant is not just for its amazing visuals and solid story structure, even though those are really, really good. Lion King has a really solid economic story structure. But there's a ton of very subtle visual clues that are used to tell the story, so our brain picks up on it subconsciously as well, so you don't have to spell everything out. And it ties a lot of things that happen together in a really nice way. So I want to specifically talk about how the film has a lot of visual symbols that represent and support the idea of the circle of life. I also really believe that they use so many, almost like a circular, even like story. There's a lot of times when the story just literally circles back and connects back to things that happened in the past, or even make the characters really backtrack or circle around. It's really great. They use a lot of circles and cycle imagery. So obviously the sun and the moon, these represent our day and night cycles, and in the movie they are usually used for showing things about life and death, but it's also a symbol for kingship. Remember that in this film, the circle of life isn't just about life and death, but it's also about you taking your place and fulfilling your role in that cycle. And the Lion Kings are directly connected to the circle of life. So sun and moon imagery is used a lot in the film. And then something like rain and drought are used as well. They are signs of good versus bad leadership in the film. And I thought it was interesting because water, obviously, on our planet also exists in a cycle, and it's very essential for life. So it's also connected to the whole life and death thing. So let's just scroll through the movie and pay attention to how these symbols are used to tell the story, make it more impactful, also more impactful on our emotions. So yeah, we start with the sun. Start of the movie, the sun comes up, there's a new prince born, and then we immediately, like, they really ingrain this whole dark and light thing and the sun, and the circle of life stuff in the beginning into your brain. So Simba and Mufasa talk in the light of the sunrise, and this is the first part of Pride Rock that's hit with sunlight when the sun comes up, and that's where they talk. And Mufasa then connects the light of the sun to his kingdom and also to his own life. So the sun represents kingship as well as life and death. And obviously everything that the light touches is going to be Simba's kingdom. That's what he tells him. And then the shadowy places is where we don't go. Surprise, surprise. Guess who's almost always in the shadows? It's Scar. Very, very clear visual storytelling here as well. And then the interesting thing is that obviously Scar, I think, is the biggest Disney villain. He's such a nasty guy. But they introduce him so well. Like, they have that little thing where he's playing with the mouse at the beginning of the story. That's a recurring thing as well. Like, Scar always plays with his prey. And not just with the mouse in the beginning, but every single time he wants to make a kill, he just he does this tiny little thing where he just makes it a little tiny bit worse for the person. He's just a really nasty guy. And the interesting thing is that when Scar is organizing, the hyenas into helping him with his master plan of evil, we see a moon. It's another circle. It's like the twin sister of the sun. And but it's funny when you see Scar, there's always an overshadowed moon. It's always a half moon. And that's the symbol for Scar's leadership, because he's not meant to be king, but he does overshadow the rightful king. So that's interesting. So then Mufasa dies, which is horrible. And Simba runs away after his father's death. The sun sets. And it's just like Mufasa said, like the sun will set on my time. But it doesn't rise for Simba yet. It also doesn't rise for Scar. When he becomes king, we don't see the sun rising. It's the moon again. And again, it's overshadowed. Like this is not the rightful king. This is also a throwback again to the beginning of the movie. Like I kind of call, I don't know if there's an official term for it, but I kind of call them twin shots. Lion King has a lot of them actually. And this is like at the beginning of the movie, there's all kinds of animals coming to Pride Rock. And it's animals that come to celebrate Simba's birth, the next rightful king. And here Scar is drawing the wrong crowd. He's like drawing the hyenas. And the hyenas are not supposed to be in the Pride Lands. They're supposed to be at the elephant graveyard. Everything's going wrong. And we'll see just how wrong things are going to get later on. We do see the sun rising, actually, when we go back to Simba. But instead of being the new king, Simba's life is now in danger, and that's symbolized by the vultures that are literally blocking the sun from our view. It's kind of a nice detail. Luckily, Simba's picked up by Timon and Pumbaa. Again, here's the drought kind of like thing. A drought means death in the Lion King, and then they pull him out of the drought, like landscape and environment, and they bring him to the water. And water means life. There's water here that has caused a flourishing jungle to pop up right at the edge of the desert here. So in their ignorance of who Simba is, and by seeing him as an outcast like them, Timon and Pumbaa encourage him to forget about his past, and also about his past life with their Hakuna Matata motto. Notice also how the sun is never shown when Simba's in the jungle. But he grows up, and we see a bright, full moon. It represents growing up. It's part of the circle, like the circular thing, and cycles, and the whole growing up thing. But it's also a reminder of, remember when Scar became king, the moon was partly eclipsed. But here it is in its full glory. Like Simba's the rightful king, but the sun hasn't risen for him yet. He's not there yet. Also, kind of like he left his past behind him, and he's left his whole, like, himself and his role as king behind him. And also notice how whenever we see Scar on the throne in the Pride Lands, the sun never shines, even though it is daytime. And it doesn't rain either, even though it's very cloudy. So the order of things, like the circle of life itself, is completely interrupted and completely messed up by the murder and deceit and the bad leadership of Scar. And then, Simba running away. Simba hasn't taken his place in the circle of life. Like the whole circle of life is completely messed up at this point. It's all being disrupted. So then Nala shows up in the jungle, and she reminds Simba of his responsibilities, but he flees again because he doesn't know how to deal with his past. And he goes to the edge of the jungle where we have an open skies. We can now see the stars, which are another visual symbol. They represent his relationship with his father and his bloodline of past kings. And the shot is obviously a very direct callback to when his father told him about the past kings. It's like almost literally the same environment that he's in. But Simba had that faith that he had challenged, and this whole part of the movie is a showdown of that struggle. He needs to start dealing with his past, and he needs to, figure out, is my father still with me, and the whole like king thing. But Simba's very, very stuck in the lies that he's been told. Remember that I told you that Scar plays with his prey. He was planning on killing Simba. He could have killed him off right there when he found him next to his dead father. He could have just killed him or sent the hyenas after him immediately, but no, he had to make it way worse. Before he was like, I'm gonna make it way worse for you, and then I'm gonna kill you. Like, he didn't need to do that, but that's who Scar is. He's just really evil. But yeah, that's all why Simba is like, he has so many lies in his head about what exactly happened, and he can't see anymore that he's supposed to be the king. Like, young Simba, he was very, like, brash, but he knew exactly who he was. And at this point in the movie, Simba has forgotten all about that, and he's hopeless. But then Rafiki shows up, and he's determined to bring the rightful heir to the throne back to his country. And he puts his finger right where it hurts, and he asks, who are you? Simba, he stepped out of the circle of life, and in that process, he has lost himself. And at this point in the movie, something really cool happens, because Rafiki basically brings Simba back to the point in the circle of life where he stepped out. And he has to go all the way back and face his past. And then he has to decide, like, am I going to step back into the circle of life and take my rightful place as son of Mufasa, rightful king of Pride Rock. And this is a really, really cool part of the movie. Like, Rafiki kind of draws him away from the jungle. I think this shot where he just crosses some kind of bridge, kind of like visual, is really strong. Like, he's crossing into some kind of unknown territory where he just goes back into his past and deals with it. So this is a really cool image. And Rafiki brings him to those bushes, and this is really cool. This is not something that I picked up, unfortunately. I watched the director's commentary a while ago, and this is actually something that the director said. So this is really cool. Rafiki takes him through the bushes, and he literally goes through his exile scene from before, just jumps in. And here are the twin shots again. Like, he's literally crawling back into the same environment and, going all the way back. And then Rafiki even encourages him to go down into some sort of... It's not a gorge, like where he lost his father, but it's still... Like, Simba had to climb out of the gorge, and now adult Simba goes back into, like, a lower space where he meets up with his father again, basically. At first, he doesn't realize it. That he is actually meeting up with his dad by looking at himself. He's like, no, it's just my reflection, but it's like, no, actually, your father lives in you, and then this scene happens. So he goes all the way back, and he meets up with his father again, who then tells him, like, you've forgotten, at this point in your story, you've forgotten who you are, and you need to go back and take your place in the circle of life. This shot I thought was really cool. Like, it's almost the exact same shot. Like, same gradient in the sky, same colors, like, everything's the same. Really cool. Also a twin shot. I just wanted us to appreciate this. Like, the way Rafiki squashes his entire face. Simba's super hesitant to go back because he realizes that he's been wasting all this time in the jungle. And he's put in front of the choice of having to actually physically go back and face his past, going back to his land, to his family. So this is the counter to Hakuna Matata, which means to forget your worries and responsibilities when life gets tough. But here Rafiki teaches him, like, no, you have to accept the pain of the past and learn from it instead of running away from it. So Simba goes back, and what do we see? The sun rises for the coming king. But then when Simba arrives in the Pride Lands, he has to physically confront death. This is a very nice part of the movie because the exact same musical theme is playing as when Mufasa died. It's basically just Simba facing death. And he's now physically back at where he left the circle of life. So now he has a different choice to make. He actually has to stay and fight for his rightful place. But it's really cool to hear that the music changes at this point because this time he's not alone. We see Nala and Timon and Pumbaa showing up to help him. So the next step of the journey is to confront Scar. Mostly the lies that Scar has been feeding Simba. Scar knows he will never win a fight with Simba and the lionesses, so he tries to elaborate on his lie. So this is Simba's big test. Will he dismantle his uncle's lies, or will the same thing as the past happening again, and this time resulting in Simba's death. Obviously, again, this is all stuff that we immediately remember the moment his father was also hanging from the rocks. Like, this is one of those very obvious that everybody picks up on very consciously as well. Moments where you go, oh, this is the exact same shot. Scar, the fool, tells him what actually really happened. Again, he can't help toying with his prey, but this time it becomes his downfall. So now Simba has the upper hand, and he now only has one goal: defeat Scar, become king, because he now knows that everything he's been told was a lie, and there's nothing standing in Simba's way at this point. So it's also really cool is that Simba and Scar have the final showdown at the place where Mufasa told Simba that he would become king. It's the first place where the sun hits Pride Rock when it rises, and then Simba throws him off of there down to the level where he belongs. And this whole part, this is very nice as well. I recently discovered this when I was analyzing this movie, is that here is also not just a twin shot, but a whole twin sequence is happening here. Because remember when Simba was running away, when Scar told him to run away and never return, they use the exact same kinds of shots. Look how exactly the same this is. And they look down, the rocks are falling down, it's very high. And then obviously the difference is that Simba was forcefully exiled from his country, and Scar just won't give up, and Simba eventually just throws him off of Pride Rock. But here, it's the exact same shots again. And this one, exact same. And Simba was running away from the hyenas, and Scar has reason to do the same. So immediately when Scar is defeated, and as soon as Simba comes down from the top of Pride Rock to take his rightful place among his people, it starts to rain, which means that the drought is over, the Bad King is gone, the rightful heir to the throne is here, and everything will be fine. Now, one of my favorite moments in film is Simba becoming king. It's so well done. It's very short. It has almost no words. But there's so much, they convey so much emotion, and they tie everything together so beautifully, which is something you can only do when you set it up really well, and they did. So I love this moment. Like they give a little tiny moment to everybody who was in a film, like this is his family, look at him, like hope and pride and stuff like that on their faces. Zazu, I always interpreted his face like he's looking at Simba climbing the throne. He's seeing Mufasa. And then Timon and Pumbaa were in awe, but also kind of sad, because they know this is the end of how it was, and everything's gonna change. So much is coming together here. You can even hear it in the music, which is it's a mix of different themes that we've heard throughout the story. It's really cool. It's just pure visual storytelling through acting and using all kinds of visuals we subconsciously have come to understand during the course of this movie. So you can see by Simba's expression that the past is still weighing on him. He probably feels a ton of responsibility. He probably even doubts if he can be a good king, if he can fix the mess that his uncle has left. But then we see this symbol of hope. This is one of my favorite visual symbols ever. It's really obvious what this means. And some storytellers might think like, ugh, is this too obvious, too cliche, too preachy? But it works so well. Like you see the rain and all the water just washing the death away. You know, the rightful king will make everything all right. That's basically what that shot was telling us. Like Simba will do a good job. The balance to the Pride Lands is restored. Yeah, we see now that Simba looks to the sky for help. Really cool. Like this kind of look like, is my dad still here? And then we see the clouds part a little, and he hears his father's encouragement, remember who you are. And that was the last thing that was missing. And there's young Simba. There he is. It's so cool. It's so subtle, but it's so clear and so there. And here is his big Lion King roar. Really, really cool. Really cool payoff. You really feel this. At least I do. So the rain is falling down, causing the drought to go away, and the lush landscape returns. The skies open again. And now we've come full circle in the circular story. We're back at new life, and a new cycle in the circle of life can start. Cool, right? I thought it was pretty cool. I love this movie so much. and all the best to the live action version. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that was interesting to you. I hope you had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun analyzing this movie. It's also what I focus on with my mentoring. I actually offer a mentoring program on my website that helps you with your story if you're stuck with it or if you want to start one. I love story and I love story structure. Speaking of mentoring and stories, I have an email list. If you're into all of this stuff and you want more, then go ahead and go to the link in the description below and subscribe. I'm also very curious if you saw the new 2019 Lion King film. What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments below. That was it for today. If you have any friends that love movies, animation, or art in general, then send them a link to this video. Sharing is much appreciated. See you in the next video.